Hi, welcome to Channel Squared, where we connect with you, the divine, and channel here with you live. I'm Heather Marie, founder of Soulgate.
And I'm Jody Lynn Craven, founder of Abundance Consciousness. And today we have a special guest, Jennifer Rurka, and she is the perception facilitator. Welcome back, Jen.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys. Happy to be here.
Yeah, we had such a profound conversation the last time you were here. So we thought we would bring you on back because I feel as though today we're kind of in a minefield. Everywhere you turn, there's like something else that's like, and you are the perception facilitator. So I would love to hear your thoughts on what's been going on with your clients, what's coming up, and all of that.
You know what? I feel like the people that are coming to me right now are quite aligned to wanting to feel better. So I think that the sensitivity meter is fairly low with them. But what I notice around the yoga studios and stuff like that and people chatting is there's a lot of sensitive people. You know, people are very sensitive to what other people are saying. People are very sensitive to the politics, and people are very sensitive to all sorts of things. I mean, even conspiracy theories, all the things, everybody's finding themselves getting tangled up in, and they're not realizing that what's coming at them is meant to trigger a feeling within them. I've oftentimes, just like you guys have probably heard, well, it's your mirror. And that is just such the wrong thing to say, because nobody is ever your mirror. Okay. So I wrote about it in the book. I said, people are your emotional instigators. So let me explain that just for a second. If somebody comes up and yells in my face and they're screaming at me and they're really angry, and I go, oh my gosh, they're my mirror. I'm angry. Maybe I'm supposed to be dealing with anger. So now I'm actually disassociating from the feeling that they're triggering in me. Now I piggyback to their emotion and I'm going, oh, I have to deal with anger. No, that's not it at all. That person is not your mirror. They are your emotional feeling instigator. What are they triggering in you? Do you feel fear as they're screaming at you? Do you feel rejected and abandoned? Do you feel terror? What is your emotion? Because that is what the emotional collision is providing in this moment. And so as the world becomes sensitive and we are lining up by way of vibration, the frequency of what's being emitted from our fields that affects the quantum field, that actually arranges people, places, and circumstances for us to embark upon a journey on, when we miss the opportunity to see that is an opportunity to heal something within us, we bolster our ignorance. So we add more fuel to the fire and go, you did this to me. You're making me feel this way. And so all that does, like I said, is it makes our programming operate us more. We go further, into our unconsciousness, and we stay at war. And that energy is going to go somewhere. People will be like, well, it's their fault. It's not mine. The denial, the ignorance, right, literally is downloaded into the body. It's going to affect the body, whether it's in chronic pain, whether it's in disease, whether it's in gut issues, whether it's in constant colds, right? Like a lot of people, that I come into contact with are talking about how they're always getting sick. It's like, what are we not dealing with that is being presented? So, yeah, I feel like if everybody were to dial in and look at what it is that they're lining up with that from within them, and use the story, the person, the situation as ammunition to access that feeling to go in, then we would be like, wow, okay, I see the mathematical equation, of how this lined up. And then there would be no war out there. People wouldn't be blaming one another. People wouldn't be all paranoid with the conspiracy issues. They wouldn't be freaking out, going down into this black hole. They wouldn't be freaking out about politics, fighting with one another about politics. They wouldn't be fighting with their families. They'd be saying, thank you for showing me my shit. And not in the mirror, but in the opportunity to feel something within me that's requiring healing.
I love that perspective of how you how you put that in a way that's so easy to understand, you know, and I really think that it's a massive disservice to humanity when people say that this instance is mirroring you. Like that is one of the biggest, I don't know, screw offs I've seen in spirituality, right? Like it pisses me off every time I hear somebody tout that. And there's so many spiritual people out there that are like, oh, well, what are they, you know, what are you here to learn from? You know, they're just mirroring back to you, you know, you, right? And it's like, that is such crap. And I'm so glad that thank you, Jen, for saying it, that, you know, it's bullshit, really, you know, and I love how you put that, you know, it's basically for you to check your emotions. Like, why are you having this emotional response to the behavior of this other individual or this circumstance or whatever, you know? And I think that is really well put. Thank you for saying that so clearly.
Oh, thank you.
And for all the people in the back, listen up, you know? Gosh.
Turn your ears on. Open.
Seriously.
Hear it. Well, and I
Yeah.
think we've talked about this too, Heather. I think we did an entire episode on the negative side of law of attraction. And it was hitting on this point, oh, I'm attracting these things, therefore I am bad.
Yep.
And like how to disconnect from that and really look at it like, what is this showing me? Like, again, what you were saying, you said it so eloquently, Jen, you know, what is it exhibiting? I love that emotional instigator. And I love how you explained too, that when you're looking at people as your mirror, like you used the fear example, then you're looking at yourself, like, what am I, you didn't use fear, you used anger. But like, what am I angry about right now? They're mirroring back to me. And then you're skipping over your own feelings in this now moment. And that's the only place that we really have power is right now.
Yeah, and when we attach to saying, oh, that's my feeling, they're angry, so I have to work on my anger. Like I said, it disassociates us from our own feeling. It numbs us out to our feelings more and more. And then we don't even really understand how we feel. We're looking to one another. How do I feel? Tell me you love me, because that's going to make me feel good. You know, we get into these codependent avenues of relationships that take us nowhere fast within ourselves and spread us out like octopus arms. How am I going to feel today? How am I going to feel today? Is my boss going to say this to me? Is my spouse going to say that to me? Oh my God, that stranger on the street, you know, looked at me funny. Or the littlest things that we can sink ourselves with and we give our power to these people. Tell me how I feel. You know, or if we're blaming, all of our power goes to that person too. So it's like, oh, I'm pissed off at that person. They did this and that to me. Well, you're powerless in this moment because you've literally just handed over all of that power through your denial to feel something within you. Every time the finger goes out, it's a denial. And you can't argue with what's going on the quantum level. Information is literally being emitted from us, and it has to affect the field. So you don't arrange something that's coming your way by chance. And a lot of people will get in their heads and they'll be like, but I would have never asked for that to happen, because there's some really horrible things that happen. And you know, I've had horrible things in my life happen and be like, I wasn't thinking anything like that. Like I was on a really positive streak. How did that happen? And I always feel like, especially if we're doing conscious work, we're really taking the time each day to self-reflect, then oftentimes what will come up, especially when people are really in that positive mindset, is the healing crisis. So as we are doing the self-work, everything that's at a lower vibration, because we're raising our vibration consciously, all of that unconscious stuff starts to pull up towards the surface, like, is it ready to pop? And so that information starts going out really fast into the environment. So your beta mind, your waking state, is like, no, this is what I'm thinking, right? But then the alpha, the theta, that's what's pulling things in more, what you're more unaware of. And so then shit'll come your way, but seize the opportunity to go, oh my God, like this is actually what I'm clearing now. This is what I'm done with. And if you're not doing self-work and shit keeps happening, that is also oftentimes unconscious programming. Like, how did that happen to me? Well, it's what we're oblivious to that's being emitted, that's going out. And that's why it's so important that when people criticize you, for example, or say something or do something to you that makes you not feel good, that you really have a look at the feelings that are coming up in that moment, because the more you can spot out what's hidden in you, and that's the ignorance, the more you spot that out, the less ignorance is there. So the less unawareness there is, the more awareness there is. And so at that point, you really start to self-reflect in a way where you can no longer anymore. Now, when things are happening, you're going, okay, I can see how this is my shit. What was once hidden is no longer hidden.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're taking your power back.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Then we have programs that run us too that people are repressed from. So it can even be stuff in the DNA script, little kids can have horrible things happen to them and parents go, how did this happen? And there are programs that are still operating from the DNA script that the kids aren't even aware of. It's hereditary, right? It's still theirs to deal with in this lifetime. So it is theirs. It's not like, oh, that's passed down to me, so it's not mine. It is yours. And every time we become accountable with what is happening in our lives now, we actually clear the whole DNA, the holographic DNA programming. So it's not passed on to the next person. We're clearing it now. And that's why parents, the more work they do now, they can actually help to dissolve those programs in their kids without even having to talk to them, because they're changing their own field, and that's connected to their kids too.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. I like listening to you talk about how this relates to children. This is something that's very near and dear to my heart right now. We've been trying to start our family for some time now. And one of the things that we've been working on is about, like the epigenetics, right? The environment and how it expresses the gene. And it's really fascinating hearing this programming conversation that we're having right now. It makes me think, there's so much more that can still be done to help, even that genetic material that hasn't formed into human life yet, by clearing away some of that energetic baggage, some of that, unconscious crap that's, hanging on, whether it be from, this lifetime, your parents' lifetimes, the lifetimes before, whatever. I think that that's really, really interesting. I hadn't even really considered all of that. That's fascinating.
Yeah. And it changes on a dime, because every thought we have affects the field. So our emotions are literally like the tuning forks to the physical reality. The body does not throw you in your car and drive you to places you don't want to go. It doesn't just grab you by your hair, drag you to the shower and shower you. Your thinking does that. So it is the thinking that is manifesting the physical reality. So as we're thinking, knowing our ways out of this programming, right? As the more that we shine light on what's hidden and self-reflect over it, feel it to heal it, then the more that changes on the physical level, right? Like through epigenetics, like we don't have to physically change something first. It's the mental change that makes it happen. Some people will say, well, no, because it was when I started eating better and working out. So it was all physical. And I go, well, what the hell do you think made you grab the food to eat the food and lift the weights? Again, it was your thinking. So it was the conscious decision to eat better and to work out. And so really shining a light on that helps people to take their power back too, because some people are in chronic pain. Some people are in illness and they say, I'm screwed. I have no way out. There's always a way out, because it's the same way that got you in there. You're thinking, right? So we attach to habitually thinking negative thoughts. Those thoughts are hardwired into programs. but we can habitually think our way into programs that serve us, right? And untangle and unravel the vibration of those other programs that aren't serving us, that have been making the body feel heavy and concrete, like there's things unmovable in us. But when we move the stagnant energy that feels heavy and that feels concrete, we break it up through feeling. And when we do that, the energy is no longer stagnant. And so when energy is moving, there's less inflammation, which means there's less disease and less pain.
And so the opposite will also be true. It's like the visual that I got was, that concrete that you were talking about, that emotion that you're, moving or dissipating. And when you're ignoring that, when you're seeking outside of yourself, it's almost like adding more concrete from the bag and more mixture. That's the visual that I got, pouring more concrete, locking you up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
You think about that, you have a thought and you go, that's it. This is what the doctor told me. I'm fucked,
Yeah.
And the thought is so heavy and so terrifying that you just go, that's not movable. And yet it is. And it was the thinking that led you to the doctor, for the doctor to tell you that in the first place. And so if we look at what that conversation with the doctor or whoever triggered in us, instead of staying captivated by the story, if we go into, is it terror? Well, I'm going to go home and I'm going to sit with terror. I'm going to let terror tell its story through me. And I'm going to feel that out. And then once I do that, I'm going to neutralize that feeling that I had. It's no longer going to be in charge of me. So now what the doctor says doesn't matter, because the story dropped, because you went into the feeling that was encapsulated in the story. We get so spellbound by the story. He didn't call me. I must be, he must be sleeping with somebody else. Okay, what does that trigger in you?
Right.
What does that trigger in you? You lined up specifically with this guy or girl for a reason, and that reason is here to serve you. Are you ready to spot it out? Because if you don't, it's going to come back again through somebody else.
Over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So I have a question, Jen. When you are working with clients that have pain, let's say, you've got someone that's got back pain, and let's say that the doctors say that the disc is deteriorated or it's slipped or something like this. When this type of situation happens, is there something that can be done by, like, through changing perception, looking at that? Is there a way to heal in some way from something that would be perceived immediately as like, oh God, my back is trashed, I need surgery, like, what do I do now? Is there a way for the work that you do to assist someone that would maybe be in a situation like that?
There is. And I've worked with people with chronic pain before. I've worked with people, dealing with a lot of issues. So some things I can stall and then have that person's body function normally without of it, and it goes into repair mode. And some of those programs are pretty hardwired in. And for whatever reason, they're supposed to still be spiraling through that. And I believe that sometimes we need more concentrated layers to be piled up on top of one another, so that our epiphany over it, our realization at the end, can be that much more profound. Sometimes we think, I want something so bad. What's the fear behind not having it? Have you ever gone into that? Because that is what's going to unbind you from the story that you needed. Like I talk about the chakras, I don't believe in the chakras. I believe that the chakras run the spirit world. right? So the spirit is separated from soul. It's broken off pieces of soul. So when we're in the spiritual mind, we're in a fragmented light state of mind. That's where the chakras come in. And these spirit wheels operate you. So in the book, I talk about how when those chakras are activated, and as soon as the root chakras open, they're all open, by the way. So what opens up the root chakra is doubt. Okay. What shuts it down is trust. So when we're in a fragmented state of mind, we're spiraling out of control in all these colors and these spirit wheels, and we need these things. So there's a list of different things that the chakras represent. But what people don't realize is they say, oh, when I balance these out, all these things are going to come. No, when the chakras are active, those are all the things you desperately need. Those are the things you feel like you can't live without. When the mind is whole and it's in a state of trust and you're soul centered, all of those wheels come into one color, and that color is light, because those broken up colors are just fragmented pieces of white light. So when we are of right mind, we are a white column of light. We are a one light vector. So this is where we trust and we just know we're in the right place. But until we know we're in the right place, we're going to be overthinking everything. I'll tell the participants in my yoga class, for example, get into that yoga pose. Well, how does that feel on your neck? Okay, you're looking up. It feels stressed out. Why are you looking up? Because you've been told to look up. So you're going to keep on looking up, stay in stress. I want you to look in a spot that feels comfortable and then trust it beyond what any facilitator or anybody says to you. You think they know more than you, they don't. Okay, because we're all actually here just somewhat forgetting that we all have an omniscient self that is alive and well within us. And that is that white column of light. So look in the spot that feels supportive. And when you know it's the right spot, so you're not overthinking it anymore, you go, well, that feels good. So I know I'm in the right spot. So the thinking stops, which is what aligns us, even in something simple like that, to that one light vector. And that's how we can even have healings in a yoga class. In a single pose, we have to learn to trust ourselves more, though. So I really talk about that in the yoga room, because it's like, this is a platform to start tapping in, to trusting your feelings so that you know you're not doubting anymore. And then you're going to carry that with you off of your mat into your everyday life. So that when somebody says something to you, you take a moment, you think about it, and then you take yourself into the best feeling place. And then you know you're not overthinking anything anymore. You don't have to pick up the phone and call 47 people, to ask them their opinion. Because those chakra wheels, they're vortices of energy. So they will have you spinning out of control with that shattered light mentality until you trust how you feel. And then you're in the right place, and you blow that frickin' box on your shoulders wide open. Yeah.
Wow, so interesting.
Yeah. But I have a totally different perspective on things. And that doesn't mean that my perspective is right. That is how I see the chakras, though. And that is how, but that's my truth right now. And guess what? Maybe it'll change. I don't know, because I'm open and receptive to allow myself to accept change. So I don't go, oh, this is what I believe now, and I'm hardwired into it. I go, this is what I feel aligned to now. And I'm trusting that this is what feels supportive for me. And I'm also open to change. I'm open to receiving.
I think that is really key, being like what you're aligned to right now doesn't have to be like the gospel of your life, right? And I think that sometimes people get so caught up in their beliefs, their stories, what they taught or were, had learned through childhood or development or whatever, right? And so they get so locked into this narrative that may or may not be serving them in some way, and that it's okay to change. Sometimes people get so caught up, and you're seeing a lot of this, I feel like, in the political arena specifically. We're seeing, it's glaringly obvious that there is a thought process here, there's a thought process here, and they're so rigid in what they believe that they're not willing to even be open to seeing any other possibilities. And so I love how, you put that, you can be, aligned to this right now, like this is in alignment to you now, but it's okay if it changes later. Like, I think also in the spiritual community, there's a lot of, facilitators that they have their beliefs and what they know to be true, and it's never going to change because that's what they know, right? And they're not going to waver from that. But in this time of ascension, things are changing rapidly. What we think today may be completely different 5 minutes from now.
Yeah. And a lot of people thinking like, this is the only way, you got to do this. Like, you were talking about the chakra system and like essentially coming into one column of light. And like, you hear about healing your chakras and all of these things. This is the way that you have to do it. And we even get stuck in that of how to ascend, how to get to be that, column of light or aligned with that column of light that you were speaking with. And I actually saw a post the other day and I was like, see, it's okay. There is no right. There is no wrong. You just do what you can and do what feels good for you. Stop getting so caught up in what everybody else thinks is the correct way to go about it, because it may not be the correct way for you in this moment.
Well, and stuff like even just saying like, we think that enlightenment and that having, a moment of clarity means shoving 10 crystals up your nose and your ass and meditating on your head for 6 months, and fasting for days on end. That is not it at all. It's literally coming into the class or anywhere you are and going, how does this feel? Oh, this feels right. That is a freaking moment of enlightenment, because in enlightenment, you are enlightening your whole body. In the moment that you do that, that's that column of light. It's in every single cell of your body. It lights up that white light. So we can be doing that all day long, and instead of drowning in our sorrows and our pity parties. Like if you're having a pity party, it's time to get your head out of your ass. Big time, because all that is going to do is bring on more pity and more ways to feel victimized. So you're going to be like, oh, well, this happens to me and it's always so-and-so and it's always their fault. Well, and it's going to continue to be somebody else's, fault too. And you're going to continue to keep blaming. Right. So maybe if you're watching this right now, and you are having a pity party, this is your moment to start to go into self-reflect so that you're not blaming anybody anymore. You cannot help but not look at yourself. And then when you get out of your own way and stop shaming yourself to death and don't call yourself bad, like you were saying earlier, Jody, like saying that we're bad for thinking this way or that way, when you realize that everything is actually here for you, what created everything around you also puts you here. If you're alive, you're a gift. If you're alive, you are meant to be here right now, and everything that created you created all the stuff around you for you too. But it doesn't come until we look inward. Everything seems distant and far away and out of our reach when we're looking out there saying, you're doing this to me. That's when we're a slave to the environment.
I had a profound moment of enlightenment as this conversation began, because I've been watching the world and I found myself saying like, shit's getting crazy. Like, look at all this shit that's happening. And like, I'll talk to my husband about it as we're planting cucumbers. We were talking about different things last night. Did you see this? Did you see that? And I kept saying it's getting kind of scary. And so I was thinking as you were speaking, like, how do you look at the world? And this is what dropped in for me. So how do you look at the world and everything that's going on? And whatever, I followed your instruction. How does it make me feel? Fear. Well, what's the fear? I think this is really profound, or it's profound to me. What is the fear? The fear. Okay. Like, let's look at like Canadian politics. There's a little bit of a communism, just say it really quickly, some scary stuff that I see there. Why does it feel scary to me? Because it feels like somebody is taking over and taking the power away. That's not true. I still have power in this moment. It's not absolutely true that they're going to take my power away. And I just had this realization of that is the point. Get everybody scared so that they feel like they're powerless to the things that are going on. So they don't even bother trying. They just throw their hands up in the air and say, well, it's fucked. There's nothing I can do. I might as well crawl in a hole and, like come out when everything's done later. But that was profound for me to see that, okay, I don't need to be afraid of those things that are happening. One, divine will, God always wins. We know that the plan is already set in motion. I said it to Nate last night, we chose to be here in this time. So I have, feelings about that. Like, I believe that with my whole heart that I chose to be here. So all of these things are giving me an opportunity to see how much power I actually have now and in this moment.
Mm-hmm. And also too, when all this stuff is going on out there, people will look out there and they'll feel fear about the future, what's to come. And it's like, but that's not real. That's fantasy island. The only thing that's real is right now. So if something comes up on TV and, oh my gosh, this is going to happen, the economy is going to do this, everything's going to collapse, and you go, okay, well, let me just look around my house right now. Is the ceiling still intact? Is my body intact? Are there bombs going off in my room? No. The only bombs going off and the collapse and the breaking and the falling and the crumbling is in the head of believing that that will happen. So that happening is going to be a future, which again is the fantasy. And that's what activates more negatively charged reels. We get captivated by what's outside of reality and forget to be in reality, where reality is always friendly. Like, that's not just an airy fairy saying. When we are in reality, we feel at peace because we're actually in our bodies, because we're not out there vacating it. When we leave the body in stress mode, our body actually goes into fight or flight mode. So it automatically shifts to sympathetic. So the body is now on the clock. Tick tock, tick tock. You are aging rapidly and poorly. The second that we come back in, we're off the clock. Time is actually not in control of us. So now we're in parasympathetic. We're resting and we're digesting the moment. Therefore, we are repairing and renewing in this moment. So now time is not in control of me. I am the time creator, because I am standing amidst the timeless, which is right freaking here in reality, where it is actually always peaceful. And if I turn off the TV, I'll see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I go within, I will begin to see that.
Yeah.
I'll see all of the things that are in my realm of reality in this now moment are all here to support me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a very divinely timed conversation for me. I'm sitting here going, oh, wow, having my own little enlightening moments here going, oh my gosh, how did I not see that? So I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah, it's a definitely, it can be a shaken up time for a lot of people if we keep looking out there. And people will say, well, how can you just not watch the news and read the newspaper? And I go, easy, I just don't.
Yeah, totally.
I literally don't.
I know. My dad thinks I'm completely out of my mind because I don't watch the news. He's like, how do you keep up with the world? And I'm like, I don't. I'm like, anything that I need to know is going to find its way to me. Like, I don't need to watch this lying box on my wall to tell me the lies that it's telling you, like, I don't need that in my life. We don't even have cable. We don't have any of that stuff here. So we don't subscribe to the shenanigans.
Yes. Yeah. Not letting it determine how you're going to feel today. But if you slip, like, guys ever notice how, like, if you're in a kind of woe is me mode, you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, you kind of want to go out looking for that. You want to turn
Totally.
those YouTube channels where they're talking about some really weird things, and then you just want to go into it, or you want to listen, call somebody and gossip, or you just start feeding the monster.
Mm-hmm.
And then the monster takes you down, and it's always your own monster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think you can even, see stuff like this happen in like partnership, when you are, in a relationship with somebody, how many times have we, been like, oh my gosh, she just doesn't get it. Or, oh my gosh, my wife is a crazy bitch and, whatever it is. Right. And like, there's these moments when it can quickly spiral, right? Because maybe your wife isn't a crazy bitch. Maybe your husband isn't, hooligan today, and maybe it's just something's being presented for you to look at, and it's just something for you to look at, and you end up turning it into this behemoth of a monstrous thing, and before you know it, you guys are screaming at each other in the kitchen while the dinner gets cold, right? And so like it's so easy to see how that can happen, and if you just stop for a second and go, okay, why is this occurring? Like, what am I supposed to be gleaning from this experience? I mean, just yesterday, I rattled off Jody's ear for probably a solid 45 minutes, pissed off at my husband. So, I'm like, I just need you to hold the bucket, and she's just like, okay, I got you, and by the time that I got home, I was ready to just completely chop his head off. I didn't, but, but eventually, I got to this place of like, why am I like this? Like, why is this even a thing? Like, I completely made all that shit up in my own mind, at least I didn't pick the fight. You know what I mean?
These like meanings that we create and stuff like that. I over the last couple of weeks, I've also had, my husband teaching me, if you will. And I kept like, I was avoiding it for a while. Like I was just pissed off and I wanted to be pissed off. So that's where I was. And then I was like, okay, like, why are you mad? Like, why are you so angry about whatever happened? Like the story, total transparency. I was working really hard to get stuff done and he was screwing around, hanging out with one of his buddies. And then I was like, angry like that I'm taking my time away from my other businesses and all of these other things, and I really had to sit and unpack my feelings because I had gotten so far down the like angry canal, if you will, that I had to like go back. Like, why are you even angry anymore? And like what is it that you're wrapped up in and caught up in that? Like I felt like literally a fish caught in a net. Like I really couldn't get out and really had to sit with it. And I cried and I was sad and I was mad and I was all of the things. And really it was this feeling of what I had put on the situation was this feeling of like, nobody cares. I'm the only one that cares. I'm all alone. And I could see how that was exhibited in a lot of other things that I was witnessing and feeling. So, my husband's like our interactions are a great teacher of mine. And I was like, oh, I get it. I wasn't seeing it anywhere else. I needed to see it here because God, whatever, knew that I would get the message if I saw it here. So it's a beautiful lesson to move through and like just beautiful to witness our own feelings and see, okay, all right, I got that. I don't need to feel that anymore. I can let go of whatever the pattern is that is running through this.
And it's nice to have a spouse, a partner that gives you a safe place to do that. That really holds space for you. Not somebody that says, okay, yeah, take me down, suck the life out of me. But that gives you the room to expand, to have your temper tantrum, and
still loves you at the end of it.
Yeah, exactly. That's growth, when you have a partner you can grow with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
This has been such an amazing conversation. And what's great, Jennifer, is that you do this for a living. This is what you do for work outside of yoga. I mean, you do the, perception facilitation while you're in yoga classes, and I can't wait to experience that one day, hopefully soon. And you work one-on-one with clients. And I was one of your clients. We worked together, and I worked with Jen for 3 months on a lot of different things. And the clarity of stuff that was coming through was profound. How much, after all the work that I've done, you would think that we're good there. Yeah, no, there was a lot that we worked through and shifted and stopped, and however you want to call it, over the 3 months that we worked together. It was absolutely incredible. So I thank you for that. And, thank you for the work that you're doing in this world, Jen.
Thank you, Jody Lynn. I appreciate you saying that. It means a lot to me. Yeah.
I'm still making my list. So it's funny because at one point I think it was the last time we had you on the show. And I don't know if it was actually in the show or before or after the show, but you had mentioned, to make a list, just write everything down, every single thing you could possibly think of, just put it on the list and we'll just crank through them. And it's funny because, I'll get to my list and then I'll get away from my list. And then I'm like, oh, I can't stand this thing. And so I'm like, where's that list? I'm like,
Right.
The Jen list. So yeah, it's getting close though. I can definitely feel it coming. So it won't be long and I'll be like, Jen, I need you to help me.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good thing. I'll tell people, write out all the emotional, the stuff and the physical stuff if there's, I mean, the two are the same, but we just divide them and then we can work with them from there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you for joining us. We will put all of the links in the show notes, the chat, the description, so you can find Jen and you can work with her. You can pick her brain, all of that stuff. Thanks for everybody for watching today. And thanks again, Jen, for being on the show. We just love having you here. So
Thank you guys so much. Thank you.
see you next week.
Bye.